Hello, I'm Wanderer001 and this is my review of the Kasa Smart Plug 2 or HS107. Now it's called the Kasa Smart Plug 2 because, well, there are two plugs on this particular model. Now this is a very specific use case and I have mixed feelings about this particular Kasa smart plug. I do prefer TP-Link as my preferred smart plug. Reviews over there in the corner will kind of tell you that, but we're going to talk about this one for a little bit. There are pluses and minuses, and we'll get into that as we go along with the review. So what you're looking at is a 4.3 inch long with a 1.9 inch height and a depth of 2 inches. So this is a very beefy plug when compared to something like the TP-Link Mini. So you can see these are quite substantially different. Now, as I said before, the use case with this is having two separate plugs that will actuate two separate things on a single wall plug. Now, a reason you might want this is because, well, you have a single plug that you want to utilize for a light on one side and a light on the other side, you know, nightstands or either side of your couch, which is how I have this set up. Now, the beauty of TP-Link here is it does work with your voice assistant, so you can use your Echo and Google Home devices for this. And well, the question is, something like this, how easy is it to set up? Well, let me show you how easy it is to set up. All right, setup of the dual-sided TP-Link here. Sadly, all of the plugs in my new house are upside down. So, power to both sides. Center is blinking, indicating that it is ready for pairing. So we're going to open the Kasa app. In the upper right hand corner, we are going to select add a new device. So we're going to come here, add device. So here you've got all of your choices. In our case, it's a smart plug. Here it is, the smart plug 2 outlet. So we kind of skip that step and we're already there. So normally start, then plug in, but it's blinking. Next. Showing orange and green. It is orange and green. And now it's connecting. And this is spinning off in the corner. I'll just kind of let you see that off in the peripheral. So we have to choose our network. I'm going to choose the one that I use for my IoT devices. And it's spinning again. You can see it's rapidly blinking there. And there you go, it's white in the center, which means it's connecting. The app is catching up. Still working with the app here. Hoping it doesn't take a few minutes. If it does, I'm just going to cut out so you don't have to sit through the entire process. Shouldn't be that long though. Oh, no, there we go. It's all done. And you've got add plug 1, add plug 2. So you can give it a name if you wanted to. Currently I have nothing to name them, so we're just going to leave them as is. Although it's making us actually name them before we can go ahead. So let me do this quick. So after I gave one of them a name, it says I can choose an icon or take a picture. So we're just going to leave it as is with the plug and save. And then we would do the same thing for this picture. Alright, both of them have been labeled. We're going to hit next. And there you go. Everything's finalized, so sounds good. And now it's requiring an update, but that would be the installation process. And we're just going to update the firmware now, but you're not going to have to sit through that. See, not terrible at all. Now, we're going to take a quick walk around because I did neglect to do that before. So like I said before, a plug on either side. You have a status light here in the middle, and then 2 switches to control either side. Now, these, if you're putting this in a hard to reach place, will be a little tricky to get to, but thankfully, there is an app that you can use with this, or again, once you link it to those voice assistants. Now, with the Echo devices, you will need to enable the Kasa skill, which is the Kasa app. That is how you control this with your Echo devices, and likewise with the Google Home solution, you will have to activate the account there to speak with your TP-Link devices. So let me show you what it actually looks like for using this with the Kasa app. When you first are brought into the Kasa app, in this case I have several plugs, but if we were just looking for the plug in question, here you can see living room left side and living room right side. You can toggle the switch on and off from here. Remember, there's 2 sides, so you can toggle either or. Clicking on it will bring you into the switch itself. Again, can toggle on and off. You got a nice animation there. Name is located at the top, so living room light left side, plug 1. You have options here at the bottom and options at the top. We'll start with the bottom. You can schedule. Scheduling by clicking the plus sign up here will allow you to schedule when a plug is turned on or off. You can switch through the times there and days. Currently it's on, so if you set something, it will turn the plug on those times. Switching it to off means at those times it will turn itself off. You would hit save. We're just going to hit back and back one more time. Timers. Again, if you want to have the switch turn on or off after a specific amount of time, this is where you do it. Set the times here. Away mode. Now, away mode is unique in that during these times that you set and days, the switch will turn itself on and off incrementally to mimic you being home. So if you have this, in my case, living room lights, it will alternate left and right, specific times, making it appear that you are home actively doing things. Runtime is just that. It will show you the runtime. So here you can see total runtime today, past 7 days, and past 30 days. As you can see, I have not been running this all too often because, well, I've been testing it, and the place I'm going to put it is a bit of a pain to get to after it's placed. So, small runtimes, but this will tally everything up. You will notice that there is no electrical usage like the Kasa Power Strip review over there shows you. So this is just what the rest of the Kasa line does. They don't have that feature. Now you'll notice that there are 2 dots at the bottom here. That's because if you swipe, it will bring you over into your next plug. So now it says right. So we're going to talk about this up here, which is the sprocket, which brings you into extra information. So from here, you can change the name and picture. So here I can see if I change that, it would change. I can also select the icon and choose a new picture, or I can select a picture from the album on my phone, or I could take a new picture if I wanted to take a picture of what this was actually of. And that's for left side and right side. Custom, here you could see swap, so you can move either or. So the left side now becomes the right side and the right side becomes the left side. We're gonna swipe it back and come back. So status light LED, so if you don't want to have the status light on, you would click that and toggle it on or off. So that white LED that's in the middle when it's not on but just in passive mode would be great if you just click it off, you don't see it. For me, this is going to be in the bedroom behind my bed, so I don't want that bright white LED light disturbing me, so I can keep that off. Here you've got device info, which will tell you time zone, location, device time, Wi-Fi network, model, and then extra information down here. Now, firmware version, keep in mind that you do not automatically get firmware updates. You do have to manually update the firmware, and that is done back on your main home screen here by selecting this drop down and selecting firmware. And that checks all of your Kasa devices. Now I'm going to quickly run through these top options because, well, I've done this for all my other plugs, but this is just if you have a TP-Link camera This is if you set up a scene. So setting up a scene will allow you to have like a routine. So in the case for my good night routine, some of my plugs turn on, some of my plugs turn off. Smart Actions, right now you need a specific Smart Actions hub to use this, so we will not be talking about that because I don't have it. And activity, so for the particular plug in question, there isn't much activity going on because, well, it hasn't been really used all that often. And that's turning on, turning off, that type of activity, not you manually turning it on and off. Set up those actions to happen. And that is a look at the Kasa app for your two-sided switch. So there you go, you saw what you can do with the Kasa app. Now, again, I did forget to mention that each side is controllable separately. You saw that in the app. Each plug was its own separate actuation, and that includes the voice assistance as well. Now, the TP-Link HS107 here operates on the 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi band. That means long range, slower speeds than your 5 gigahertz, but you don't need a 5 gigahertz with something like this because you want the range, not the speed, because all you're doing is telling it, turn this on, turn this off. Now, something that the newer TP plugs have been doing, including their power switch, is the ability to turn off these LED status lights. Now, especially with this, these are all white. Now, when you do connect and this is idling, the main light here will turn off after a short amount of time. However, when these two are on, they are a bright white, unlike the blue light that you get on the TP Mini. Now, again, in the application you saw, you can toggle these on and off. So you can have this completely off, which is good if you're using this in a bedroom and trying to use this to use for your nightstands. You don't want this bright white LED keeping you up. So let's talk about some of the things that you might not have considered with a smart switch. First being, what happens if the smart switch loses power? Things that are plugged into it, what do they come back as once the power is restored, which is something that I had not considered in the past, but have had the pleasure of experiencing with some other power switches, so I make sure to check on that now. So what happens when power is lost to the device? Whatever the last state was is the state that it will return to. So if you have a light on this side that's turned on and a light on this side that's turned off, then when power is restored to the device, this light will be on and this light will be off, which is good in some cases, but if it's 3 o'clock in the morning and this light's coming back on, that's a little problematic. But it's something to consider and know will happen with this device. Now, another thing to consider is when power is lost, how long does it take for a device to reconnect itself to your network? And that's the big thing. You want to be able to use your smart home as soon as your electricity comes back on, which is a big thing for me. So it takes 11 seconds for this to reestablish connection with your Wi-Fi network and make it usable again. So not terribly long at all. So that's a good thing. Now, another thing to consider, which you may have not, is power usage. So anything like this is going to use a little bit of power, even if there's not something plugged into it drawing power. So in those cases, what you're looking at is when it's idling, meaning it's just plugged into your wall, nothing else is plugged into it, it's just on your Wi-Fi network. Well, the beauty of this plug is it uses negligible amounts of power. In fact, in the corner there, the device that I use to read power usage pretty much said I can't detect anything. It's 0 to 0.5, meaning it's almost negligible. Now, since this has two sides to it, once you start turning these on, you start using a little more power. So one side, either side, you start using 0.6. Put them both on, then it's 0.9. Now, surprisingly, this is a little less power draw than the TP-Link Mini. So that's kind of a good thing if you need this type of form factor. Now, the problem with this type of form factor, and you probably saw it when I was doing the setup and when I was showing you the LED status lights, are you're not going to be able to get two smart switches on a single outlet. This takes up a lot of room on an outlet. You will be able to get another power plug underneath it or on top of it, but you will not be able to get two smart switches. So again, for me, this sits behind my couch and controls a light on either side of the couch, and then I have something underneath it for like a fan. So for me, this setup is perfectly fine. But keeping in mind, depending on how your outlets are situated, if you have something like this where the bottom outlet is too close to a wall and the top outlet has nothing, well then you just lose all of this ability because of the wall. So in this case, you might not want something like this form factor. You would want something like the TP Mini. But the beauty of all TP-Link smart plugs are you don't need a hub, meaning there's a secondary device that you need to connect to before you can connect this to the Wi-Fi network. Philips Hue lights were notorious for that years ago. I think they actually started moving away from a hub. And if you're the slightly more tinkery type, you'll be happy to know that TP-Link HS107 here does in fact work with IFTTT. So you can have fun with if this then that. So the question is, how much does something like this cost? Well, depending on where you get this in sales and so forth, you can pick this up anywhere from $30 to $25. Now keep in mind, you are getting 2 different plugs in one. It is a very specific use case. For my very specific use, I have found it great because I want to be able to have that secondary plug to use for my fan. So having 2 smaller plugs would not work. And I didn't want to like daisy chain a power strip into another smart switch. And this filled a purpose for me. It may fill a purpose for you, which is why I'm doing a review of it so you can figure out, is this something that you need in your life? If not, I highly endorse the mini plugs from TP-Link, but the TP-Link HS107 also is a very good plug for what it does. It is chunky, I will admit that, but it's a small price to pay for being able to have 2 actuating switches on a single plug in your wall. With that being said, I have been Wanderer 001. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them in the area below. And as always, thanks for watching.